Hello, everyone. On the 23rd of November, which is going to be tomorrow because today is the 22nd when I'm recording this, there's going to be a Sagittarius new moon. All new moons are about new beginnings, new incentives, a fresh start. But if you take a look at all the signs, it's probably Sagittarius that is the most future-oriented anyway. So Sagittarius new moon always gives us an extra push towards something bright, something new. Sag wants to transcend all the human and physical obstacles. It wants to reach the heavens, and it wants to have a bright and beautiful future. These are our hopes. Now let's take a look if our incentive or wish can be granted by the stars. And here is the Sag new moon, and the space-time moment for London is on November the 23rd at 22:57, so 10:57 p.m. And there are many features of in this new moon. You can see that this is on Asteroid Hera. That's why the title of this video is Sag new moon on Asteroid Hera. Here, of course, is Zeus's wife, and a very similar archetype is one of the main asteroids, Juno, but there is a difference. Juno is a Roman goddess, the wife of Jupiter, and if you compare Roman and Greek gods, you will find, or you will realize that the Greek gods are jealous, vindictive, vicious, dishonest. They are really sometimes much worse than human beings because they know that they can get away with everything, and they are eternal and everlasting. At the same time, Jupiter is a lot more noble, if you can use this word. All the Roman gods are somehow noble, and they don't really have this stupid way of treating human beings as the Roman gods do. The exact moment for the Sagittarius new moon in London is 10:57 p.m. As you can see, Virgo is rising with trans Pluto, and there are a number of interesting features in this chart. So let's walk through it, because we have like a ton of conjunctions, and conjunctions are always important because it's just not two energies merge, but because a new entity is born by the merging, by the conjunction, and this new entity is always more than the counterparts that they are forming. We still have the Uranus North Node conjunction. It's still quite tight. Pluto is on the vertex, and the vertex is the point where you can't have a free will. So here, Pluto, the transformer, the power and transformation archetype, is a bit hindered. Or it can also mean that, at least for you guys Londoners, anything that comes from this new moon will have major impacts regarding all sorts of transformation, but at the same time, you won't actually know what to do about it. You won't have a say in the matter. On Vesta, on descendant, you have Vesta, the focusing principle, and on the ascendant, you have trans Pluto, the channeler or the dimension jumper, and is exactly square the Sun Moon, the new moon conjunction. There's also a very tight Mercury Venus conjunction in Sag. Nice talk, beautiful talk. There is a Pallas Athena Black Moon Lilith conjunction in Cancer. These are interesting archetypes because at a first glance, they are very, they are typical single woman energies. They are very independent. They don't belong to anyone. They don't want to get married. But for many, many points, they are very different at the same time, because Black Moon Lilith leaves the Garden of Eden on her own volition, but returns when she has something to do, when she needs to give Eve valuable knowledge. Whereas Pallas Athena, she is the daughter of Zeus, and she's born without any maternal interference. Lilith is the creator goddess, the daughter of the creator goddess. So she is a very important feminine archetype. Pallas Athena is actually the one who is destroying this type of matriarchal power, because she is her father's daughter and wants to strengthen her father's reign. And so they have different functions, although they are both very independent archetypes. You also have a Mars dark moon Lilith conjunction. So the dark moon is the acceptance of the curse in the Lilith myths. So the Liliths are quite prominent in this chart. And what did I not tell you yet? It's the Juno Australia conjunction is still very tight, so you still have time to reconsider and break old and embedded karma in your relationship or in your marriage, actually, because Juno usually signifies very committed relationships. And we have as I said, there's a T-square in the London chart, which is actually there in other charts as well, if you allow a little bit bigger orb for trans-Pluto, because it's already 3.5 degrees, so stretching a little bit for my taste. And if you study astrology and you were wondering what a dissociate aspect means, now you can understand this. We have an exact square between the Sun, Moon, and Vesta, because Vesta is also at 1 degree Pisces, something like that. It's very tight and it's energetically perfect. But Jupiter, which is actually in Pisces, and it's ready to turn back because it's stationary at the moment. So the new moon has stationary Jupiter, which is always very relevant because stationary planets strengthen in their original meaning. But this Jupiter is also energetic because it's at the last degrees of Pisces, and it makes a trine to the Sun-Moon conjunction, but it is a dissociate trine because the Sun-Moon is in Sag and the Jupiter is in Pisces. So again, you have a trine which is a square, really, or it's in square energies. The same goes to the Sedna new moon opposition, where you actually have Sedna at the last degree of Taurus, opposite the Sun Moon in Sagittarius. So again, this is an opposition that joins quincunx energies. And there's also a quindecilla from Uranus, which I'm going to show you in detail. Now let's take a look at the this dissociate ground cross, because that's what I tried to explain before. But you see the mutable T-square is valid and there, but the ground cross really becomes dissociate because Sedna, retrograde Sedna, is not in Gemini but in Taurus. And here's the quindecilla from Uranus, an exact quindecilla to the new moon, which actually means that this new moon, which is about some new beginnings and new hope, is really pushed by Uranus to change, to make the necessary changes. It is also pushing towards freedom and all sorts of revolt, really. So that's what I see in this new moon, especially for London. You will see what happens, because the quindecilla is obsession and ambition. It can appear both ways. Here are the transcendental objects. I'm going to show you a big star which I have not mentioned before. This is Kayam or Kajam. I have no idea how to pronounce it. Certainly Kayam in Hungarian. This is the omega star of Hercules. The whole constellation Hercules is about a strong masculine power, someone who is a demigod, someone who is Zeus's perfect hero son, and who is willing to enter into all kinds of combat. And Kayam or Kajam is in his weapon. It's the weapon that fights for whatever Hercules wants to fight for or against. That's the Hera, which I explained to you. On Vesta, you have Hannibal, another hero, a general. On Trans-Pluto, you have Ginevra, another wife archetype, the wife of Arthur. It's Guinevere or Ginevra, both pronunciations of both spellings are correct. On Sedna, you have the Pleiades, and actually the Sedna will be aligned with the Pleiades for at least another year or a year and a half, at least, maybe 2 years, but I'm still mentioning it. And the Pleiades is the home of the creator goddess. So it's a very important position in the star. If you have anything at the very end of Taurus or 0 degrees Gemini, it is important, it's relevant, it is prominent in your chart then. On Jupiter, you have Manve, which is a TNO, and it is linked to creating new worlds and understanding nature and honoring nature. And also Sheat, which is the a healing word of the healing words of suicide victims. So that's what you have in the main configuration. There's also a Thor's hammer, which is actually, I call this is the Thor's hammer. You see the 2 sesquiquadrates and a square, but since there are also 2 semi-squares, and of course an opposition joining this, I labeled this planetary picture Thor's kite. But here's the hammer actually, but it's a kite configuration, and we also have a cardinal T-square, and the 2 configurations are nicely put together. Actually, you have a tense trapeze right here with squares, sesquiquadrates, and semi-squares. So this is a lot of tension, and the tension, one apex of the tension, and actually one angle, is Pluto vertex opposite Pallas Athena, Black Moon Lilith. So the 2 independent feminine is against power. It's against power and the plutocrats, let's put it this way. And then the 1 square is between Mercury, Venus in Sag, and Juno, Astrea in Pallas Athena. And it's interesting because if you look at Juno and Venus, you can have this on the personal level, the lover and the wife are clashing, but also on the universal level, what is clashing is alliances, Juno, and money, Venus. We will see what this brings to us. And of course, the Pluto Aries square is still there. It's separating, but it's still there. And the cardinal T-square has Aries at its apex, and Aries denotes drastically altered outward circumstances. It's the war itself. And if you look back at last week's world news, well, I don't know how free your press is, but in Hungary you can write whatever you want, and actually we get both sides of the story. Number one, Mr. Zelensky almost kicked in the door for the Third World War by lying, okay, by deliberately shooting 2 rockets to a Polish village, and luckily, my dear Polish friends kept their breath, kept their stamina and common sense, and immediately said that this was either an accident or it was a Ukrainian missile, and it turned out, yes, it was. And at the same time, this is again something I'm not sure you will recognize in the news, but the Ukrainians killed 10 prisoners, Russian prisoners of war, after they were giving themselves up, and that's a war crime. So what I'm sensing is at the moment that the whole world is getting really, really fed up with what is happening, and we want this nonsense to stop. And that's exactly what you can see here, because the Pallas Athena Black Moon Lilith is actually on Diomedes, who was a Thracian king and very, very brutal and ruthless, but also on Procyon, which is one of the stars of the little dog, a very bright star, actually heralding the coming of Sirius. And actually, as Bernard Brady, I think, mentions it, it is eclipsed kind of. It's a very bright star, but not as bright as Sirius. So Sirius kind of eclipses Procyon. So that's an interesting idea. And how can you eclipse a very bright star? But by a brighter star, an even brighter star. And then on Pluto, you have Panacea, which is universal healing, and Amicus, still Amicus, which is, you may remember, the centaur who grabs the candelabra and starts fighting with it. So it mixes the sacred object in a very, very profound deed. And on the Pallas Athena, sorry, on the Venus Mercury conjunction, you have Paracelsus, Polymath, and Antares, which is Alpha Scorpio, and the heart of the celestial Scorpion. It is one of the royal stars of Persia, the watcher of the West, and it denotes success if you avoid black magic. And on Juno, Austria, you have Seneca, another thinker. So that's what you have here in. Okay. There's also mutable T-square and a mutable air engine. That's the mutable T-square, at the apex of which is Mars and Dark Moon. And the two squares are joined in opposition by Neptune and Ceres. And you can see the mutable air engine, mutable square, and air trine. And it has Saturn, Ceres, and Mars, Dark Moon in it. Dark Moon is acceptance of the curse. Mars is retrograde in Gemini. The two are suggesting that more things will resurface, and the world is slowly going to turn. The whole perception of this war is going to alter, and maybe, just maybe, the fighting is going to be not on the battlefields, but on ideology, and which is a bit less terrible, let's put it this way. So we will see a lot of fighting and a lot of clashing on the ideological level and on the verbal level. Okay, and there you have some transcendental celestial objects on Marcia of Agamemnon, who was one of the generals of the Trojan War. So the war is still kind of there, and you have two bright stars, Bellatrix and Capella. Mars is currently at 21, 22 degrees, and at 22, 23 degrees Gemini, there are 5 or 6 really bright and important stars. This degree is one of the most star-studded degrees in astrology. Bellatrix is the beta star of Orion, not the beta, the gamma star of Orion, and it denotes success through the shadow, and it somehow allows us to hope that in the shadow, okay, there are some talks about war, which hopefully will be sensible. And Capella is Alpha Auriga, a very bright, moving, active, and it's a healing word for soul ambitions, and where you learn how to exercise your energies in a go forward way. On Ceres, you have Osiris, the god of the Egyptian underworld, Dionysus, altered states of consciousness, and Denebola, one of the main stars, I think, it's probably either the beta or the gamma star of Leo, and it's the tail of the celestial lion, and the whole constellation Leo is about ruling and reign and sovereignty, and Denebola is about instinctual sovereignty, how you act instinctually in such a position. On Saturn, you have Arachne. Arachne, who is a hubris asteroid, then I'm very proud of my own achievement, and with this I make the gods angry. I think that was it. Those were the celestial, transcendental celestial objects. And what else I wanted to show you, this comes from solar fire, and you can see that Jupiter is stationary retrograde, so it's going to turn direct. And then in a couple of days, maybe 2 weeks, it will move into Aries. By the new year, it will again be in Aries. So, and move forward actually towards Taurus quite soon, by the middle of the year. And Mars is still retrograde. And what you can see, Mercury and Mars are both out of bounds. Mercury is just a little bit out of bounds, just 1 by 1 minute of an arc, and Mars is still out there quite well. And this suggests, to me at least, first of all, out of bounds planets mean that they are not on the normal human course. They are on a more universal course. So it brings understanding on a universal level. And Mercury is just stepping over this limit, which suggests that there's still the human understanding, but some sort of divine or universal understanding is also at our disposal, while Mars is also out there. And I explained this in a previous video, so I'm not going to talk about this. What this whole thing means, if you consider here in Hungary, this particular 4 weeks before Christmas is very important to us. Hungary is a Christian country. Most of us are Roman Christian Catholics, and as the light is diminishing outside, we are lighting candles. Each Sunday, we are lighting 1 candle more, and so we are trying to bring hope and light into our lives, in our inner sphere, so to speak. And this is what you're going to experience. Even if you are not religious, this is what you should try to do. Try to strengthen yourself and try to actually grow hope in yourself, because this particular period when we are running towards the darkness helps us to find inner light in ourselves. I wish you happy new moon in Sag. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.